Hi, everyone. Welcome to Cabaret Corner. I'm your host, Ari Axelrod, and I'm so excited to welcome today's guest, the brilliant Faith Prince. Faith has been dazzling Broadway audiences since winning the Tony, Drama Desk, and Outer Critics Circle Awards for her performance as Miss Adelaide in Guys and Dolls. Faith is a three-time Tony nominee for her performances in Jerome Robbins' Broadway, Bells Are Ringing, and A Catered Affair. Other Broadway credits of hers include The Little Mermaid, Little Me, The Dead, Noises Off. She has also played a recurring role on ABC's Modern Family, and of course, is a superstar in the cabaret world. Her first show, Leap of Faith, was an award-winning success. She has also done a cabaret entitled Total Faith, which Richard Maltby says is such an event, and Faith Prince is just the genius artist and human being for whom the form was invented. Faith is also a brilliant teacher and cabaret director, and we actually met at the St. Louis Cabaret Conference in the summer of 2015, and we have been inseparable ever since. On a personal note, Faith directed the first cabaret I ever did at Feinstein's 54 Below called Taking the Wheel, and now she's stuck with me. And I'm honored to welcome our esteemed guest, the brilliant, the delicious, the incomparable Faith Prince.
Ari!
Hi, Faith.
Hey!
How are you?
Well, look at you, Cabaret Corner. I'm telling you, honey, you just have lifted off and just soared like a rocket.
Well, you know, it's all...
If you put in the work, my darling.
You know, I did. We did.
Yeah, but you did. You did. And that's why, I'm always telling people, it makes me crazy because I teach a lot and I get a lot of sort of feelings from parents, and it's always, well, they say, they're asking me what I'm doing. It feels like entertainment and cabaret is sort of happenstance and luck. And I say to them, well, luck in my book, if you were to look in my faith dictionary, it would be hard work meets opportunity. You have to check off the boxes.
Yes.
And put the work in and have a strategy and have a plan of how to get somewhere. So it's just like having your own mini little company, and you have to figure out how to make it work.
Ooh, I love that. It's like being the CEO of your company.
That's right. You are the CEO. When you're an artist, you're the CEO from the very beginning.
That's right.
But, it's, you got to have a plan. And I say that, to my son. He's a music producer, and his plan doesn't have to be my plan. There are a million ways in, but he always has a plan.
Yeah.
Okay, Sandra, we're talking in Cabaret Corner. You can't bark.
Oh, I love her.
Sandra has a plan too.
Of course, of course. Oh, don't we all? So,
she's my little Yorkie.
How old is she?
She's 9.
9, and adorable.
Very sophisticated. Usually wears curls. I don't know if she has them on today.
Oh, I love it.
But she could do cabaret, let me tell you.
Of course. So speaking of cabaret, if I were to ask 50 cabaret performers to define cabaret, I would have 50 different definitions. It's such an eclectic art form, and it's elusive to define. But I'm curious, in 1 to 2 sentences, how would you define cabaret? How would Faith Prince define it?
Well, and mine might be different than somebody else. And certainly when somebody comes to me to say, I'm trying to gather these things, I want to put them on in a show. And there are millions. That's why I love the form. There are so many forms of cabaret. I mean, you have Andrea Marcovici, who picks someone and sort of, pontificates about them, a composer. She talks about them. There was Mary Claire Heron, who did sort of a similar thing, These were the greats that I looked at when I was starting in cabaret. And Anne Hampton Callaway, sings a songbook. It might be Linda Ronstadt. It might be Barbara Streisand. It might be, who knows? But you always get to know a piece of them through the format. And for me, what I'm looking for is to walk into a dark room and hear a form of great music, be it jazz or Broadway or contemporary, but also feel like I've walked out knowing the person that's in front of me.
Right.
And for me, that's really important because it's sort of stripping away, especially the Broadway performers. It was the Public Theater who had originally asked me to do my first show, and I was in my early 40s. I had been in the business 22 years, and I really liked being other people. I mean, that's part of why I went into the theater. But even in being other people, there's an essence of you. You have to find yourself through that other person. So I wasn't sure I could do cabaret. I mean, I just thought somebody's got to tell me what to say and do. So I had a brilliant team. It was, Stuart Ross, and he had been a friend, and he had wanted me to do this format forever. And he had written Forever Plaid and been very successful, other things as well, but that was really the most successful. And I used to go to his house, and he used to just make me listen to just tons of music. And so then Wiley Howsam, who was working with the Public Theater down there, and they were creating an artist series for cabaret at Joe's Pub. And so he came to me and said, I really think this is your time. Let's get you a deadline and just do this. And so he put me together with Alex Ryback. I didn't know Alex. And so I had Stuart, and I thought, because I had met her through Sandy, her husband, at Spin City, Daisy Prince, who had directed things, and of course her dad is Hal Prince, but she was just, every time I talked to her, I just thought she was a brilliant woman. And I thought, if I ever do an act, I would love her to direct it. So it was a great team. It really was a great team, but it started off sort of like a female Forever Plaid, because Stuart had in his mind, that was sort of his thing. And it was Alex who came to me and said, this is really about you. So a lot of what I've learned about cabaret really has been from Alex. And Daisy directed it and had such great taste. And, Larry Grossman helped us put some of the music together, and my husband was in it, put it all together. And it's what I tell people, it's sort of like having your colors done. I don't know if you've ever had that done, where somebody picks colors for you and shapes, and it's quite something, actually. I mean, I thought it was just a nice thing to do. A designer wanted to do it for me once, and it made me see myself so much clearer. I mean, he suggested I was sort of like an Angela Lansbury or a Judy Holliday, actually, were the two kind of people. He gave you essences of things, but also shapes, like the shapes I wear in earrings, what I wear, how I dress, the colors and everything. And I realized I had spent most of my life thinking I was one thing, and I was really another. I thought I was sort of an autumn, and I turned out to be a late spring. So I always equate that with cabaret, because I think you go in with a thought, and that's fine. You need a place, a jumping off place. And in this place, we were going to call my act sort of Broadway Cocktail, right? Because it was going to be a mixture of Broadway and kind of 50s. And, and I was attracted to that. I can't say that I wasn't. But it turned out to be so much more. And I realized I was compelled to talk about my life, my sort of love-hate relationship with the South. Just things came out that I never imagined. And it really does dip into your psychology.
Yeah.
Because you have to find the truth of you. And I love helping other people do that. I mean, I never imagined that 10 years later, I would be helping people break it down and sort of going into their psyche and being responsible and helping guide them through it. Huh?
You do it so well.
Well, I really, it's become my favorite thing, really. And that's why I life coach and teach artists now, because having that experience. But you know, my dad was a nuclear engineer, and I sort of have his brain, not for physics, but for the arts. So I tend to look at things from an airplane view and help people find ways in, and sort of look at it as a puzzle. You know, it's just fascinating to me. People are fascinating to me.
Hi, Sandra. When it comes to building your first show, I think one of the things that I have talked about with a lot of my clients is, who am I to tell a story, and what do I have to say? The imposter that talks. Did you experience that at all with your first show? Or have you ever experienced that kind of imposter syndrome?
Well, I think it's probably why I didn't do anything before my mid-40s. I kept thinking I don't really have anything to say. And that's a myth, because I think at any point in your life, everybody has something to say.
Correct.
And I mean, your case in point, you had been doing the conferences all through college, and I use you a lot with my other students. And I said, you and Kelsey Berman, that you had gone to school and then done the cabaret, and then by the time you had graduated and came to New York, it was your living business card, and you had lived 40 lives at that point. Now not everybody has your life, but I have never been bored by somebody's life ever.
No.
And that's true. I mean, one of the things I'm doing during this COVID sort of hold is I took a writing class.
Ooh.
And it was, oh my God. And it was the scariest thing I could have done. My friend Jason Braw, who, we went to school together, and we do an act together actually too, and we've taught together. Jason said, I'm taking this writing class. Claudette Sutherland is her name, in LA. And she was actually an actress. She was the original Smitty in How to Succeed in Business. And she...
We're talking about her and this class.
You know her?
I know someone in an acting studio that I am in who was just playing Smitty in a production and reached out to her, and now they have a budding relationship.
Oh yeah, she's an amazing woman. And I have to say, I mean, the stories, because when I first spoke up, I was like, well, I don't really write, but I tell stories. And for me, the format of cabaret has to include that, because that's just who I am. Now, some people, that's not their thing. So we want to make sure it's bullet points and it's clean and we're giving crumbs. But sometimes you come up with something and you're finally earned the right in the evening to sort of tell a story, or and it's got to be, you want to make it whatever entity it is for them. That's the best way of entering. Some people don't talk as well, they sing better. So, you might not do as much of that, but I'm always watching. And it's like Alex says, you want to save yourself from yourself so that, it's true. You want to make sure what you're saying is succinct and concise and clear.
Right.
So you always need that. I think you always need that third person to make sure of that, But I'm constantly fascinated at the process, and it's always a delight and unusual, and it's different than I ever imagined.
So one of the things that makes cabaret so... You were talking about this earlier. One of the things that makes it so special and so unique and sets it aside from other art forms is the relationships that are necessary for the process to be what it is. Specifically, the relationship between cabaret performer and the music director.
Right.
Performers work with the same music director for 35, 40 years.
That's right.
You work with Alex from the beginning. You're still working with him. What is that like to work with someone over?
Well, it's like a marriage. It's like a marriage. It is. And the thing is, you go through ebbs and flows like a marriage. And certainly he has a life outside of me, and I have a life outside of him. And we certainly try to connect whenever we can and put something together. But sometimes he'll do the arrangements, and then he's busy playing for other people. So then I have to develop relationships with other people. And I've certainly had a relationship with Billy Stritch, and I've had a relationship with John Boswell, in LA, and Michael Orland, and Joey Chansey, and Joseph Falcon. These have all been people, and it's different every time they play it. So then they have their sort of color. I mean, you've got the basic frame, and I find that in the touring of my cabaret shows, I'm tuning in to the specific city and venue, and what would be best in that situation. What I would do in Kansas City, I might not do in Miami. Or what I would do at Oklahoma City University, I may not do in the heart of Chicago.
Right.
And so I like that aspect of it, because that's why when you get a few shows, and I've probably had maybe 6 shows since my early 40s. I'll be, it's like 20 years now of doing cabaret. I'll be 63 this year. You mix and match and pull things in, or you do another piece and you think, oh, I'd like to pull something from that. Yeah. So you're able to start having a file that you can work from and sort of, oh, I'd like to bring that out, or wouldn't that be fun to do that? Or I'll work with somebody like Richard J. Alexander and I'll say, look, these are the moving parts. What do you see? Because he's quite talented at, rethinking and reshaping. And I prefer that. I mean, I would certainly do a new show, but it's like Alex said, you never have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. There's certain things you're known for. There's certain things people want to hear. And sometimes you can turn it on its ear and do it a different way. Michael Orland and I recently had an idea, because I do crossword puzzle from Starting Here, Starting Now. And he started playing it like a jazz style, and I thought, oh my God, that would be hysterical. I am sitting here doing the Sunday Times crossword puzzle. Somehow the word won't come. It's just like, it was like, and he started doing it as a joke, and I thought, well, I couldn't do it tonight, but I'd like to see what that is, because we did that with Adelaide's Lament at one point, because I was doing it so much, and I thought, I'm going to shoot myself. However, being privileged that people wanted to hear it, so we did a jazz version of it. Sometimes you can turn it on its ear and work it in. It's just, it lends itself to be so creative. And I find that it's life-changing for people that come to see it.
Yes.
I always say, if you want joy, if you want to feel, and that's what's so hard about this time, because you can't social distance in a situation like that, but that's okay. This is a blip. And in our whole lifetime, it's a blip. And some really great things may come out of it, really.
Yes.
And listen, I go from being, highly creative and pulling in and finding all these different ways to do things and being at home. And I think, oh my God, I've never had anything like this in my life, to being devastated, thinking, Jesus, when are they going to get a vaccine? And how are we all going to live? And we're entertainers, but in the long scheme of things, it's not going to be that long. It isn't. It feels like it, and it's going to be tough.
Right.
But I think some really interesting creative things will come out of it, and I mean that.
No, you are exactly right. Which brings me to another question. Why do you think it is so important for artists to still show up as artists in a global pandemic?
Well, that's a good question. And I'm going to probably say some things you will be a little bit different. And I think everybody's different. And this is not to say right, wrong, bad, or good. And I try not to even direct that way. It's like, all right, let's try that again. Let's go from the door rather than the window, see what we get, let's layer, and by the way, John Doyle taught me that. and Tina Landau. They were just such positive. I thought, wow, you really never have to say anything negative, and it's such a great tool because it makes you have to be articulate with what you're looking for, and so and I kind of was like this as a parent. I feel like I'm a firm person. I expect good work, hard work, but I try to be non-shaming, non-judging, and get the best out of somebody, and make them find their voice and their discerning nature and show up and be able to hold their space as a human. So many people want to hide behind things, and I'm always trying to pull them out. It's like, who are we? Come on, let's, how do you feel about that? What's your point of view about that? I mean, being discerning. So I don't even know what I was saying, but it's all important. And I think some people want to still put product out there and make, because there are people that want to listen to it. For me, the technology and the dog and the leaf blower and not being able to control things drives me crazy, and I don't think I would want that out. For me, I wouldn't want that out in the world. That I just think, oh, maybe we should choose something else that I could control that's better, But some people don't feel that way, and people like the thrill of, seeing things go wrong and, seeing how people handle it. Listen, it's all good. I just think you have to show up how you need to show up. I'm definitely a team player. Like, I wanted to do this interview for you. I got asked to do another interview yesterday. I got one next week. I teach master classes at NYU because a lot of those kids, they didn't get the end of their year. I'm trying to help friends. I'm a team player. That's not without question. I just don't particularly wouldn't want to do 20 minutes from my living room because for me, that's just me.
Well, and it's also, it begs the question at that point, is it generous? Like, is doing 20 minutes in the living room generous, or is it turning the spotlight on you? And how can we be generous? Because cabaret is so generous. How do we do that in this moment?
And I think it's an individual thing, and some people can pull it off and they love and have the energy to do that. I'd rather spend my time helping somebody else figure something out. That's just where I'm at in my life. And I certainly love to perform. Listen, I was supposed to do Dorothy Brock in 42nd Street at the Chicago Lyric Opera. I love doing that. And I know if I'm going to pick it, so much of what I have will go into that. I don't think I need to perform anymore. It's a matter of want at this point. And I think I still love doing cabaret because I want to share something. I am there to share. I like sharing. And I think early on in my career, when I figured out, even in my auditions, to stop looking for what somebody else was looking for and being like concentrated on that. Alex says it all the time, express, not impress. Share. This is what I have to share with you today. Once I really got that in my brain, and this was my sort of stand, and I could carve out my space and transport you and tell you, what I'm feeling. And they were like mini cabaret shows, my audition, and casting people would see that. They could count on it. They started to see exactly who I was. Then they would think of roles that would be right. I mean, it all started to snowball. So that's what I mean about you controlling it more than you think you can.
Yes.
So for me, I didn't know it, but I had really been doing cabaret long before I did it. These were my little mini things. And some of that material I was able to use in my show.
Oh, I love that. And I what I'm hearing is that cabaret and musical theater have much more of an overlap than I think people are aware of.
Absolutely.
Not only that the players are the same, but that the artistry that is required to show up as an artist of integrity in both art forms looks very, very similar.
It does. And the great thing was I realized I could slip in and out of certain characters, and that was part of my art form in cabaret. Whereas Marilyn May is basically always herself. And we always say, because, she and I teach together, and simultaneously at St. Louis Cabaret Conference, we couldn't be more different. But I think there is a great amount of respect between both of us for each other, and we couldn't be more different. But that's what I love about the art form. It doesn't have to be. I think if you went with me and I directed you, I would want more of you, and it's more of working from the text, and with her, it's more arrangements and finding unique things like that. And that's why it's great to work with different people and, get some of that, get a little of that. I'm from the Joseph Campbell sort of school, the power of myth. He believed that basically all religions were the same. It's just where you needed to hear it. But they had elements of similarity, and basically whatever it takes to make you a spiritual being and believe in a higher power, and I feel the same about cabaret. I mean, some people can spend all night, talking about Julie Stein. Some people can do a Sondheim evening, like Melissa Errico or Michelle Legrand, I tend to be autobiographical. That's just where I'm comfortable. And I notice in my writing, I don't write fiction. I'm a nonfiction girl. I always write from my point of view, maybe I could write fiction. And that's what Claudette's telling me. But, and I love, sometimes I will read the stories in my classes and then it'll make them think, oh, well, I know who I am now, because they've heard something. And it's the same thing, the way you interpret a song, your point of view. How do you feel about that? Why did you pick that? I mean, these are the same things that we do for auditions, that I train people in audition material the same exact way I do in cabaret. But that's my sort of way in.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do that, And I think sometimes people are uncomfortable being that vulnerable. But this,
you have to be.
What I love is take advantage of it, because so much of life we're taught to not show our feelings, not show up, wall up, not be vulnerable. I think as a human, we're prepared for that. And it's like, this is
in the sandbox.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And this is a place where you can let that down. How do you feel about this? What emotion comes up from you? And again, you don't want to dump, you don't want to dump. It's not therapy. I mean, there's certain guidelines I'm very sure of. And, you have to depict with somebody what that taste is. I would never want somebody to feel uncomfortable. And I think I always said, if it doesn't work, we throw it out, we find something else. I'm not going to put anybody through a torturous thing. You've got to want to be there and that to be the way of you expressing that,
Yeah.
And so much of working with somebody, and I think getting back to why you spend so much time, there's trust involved.
A lot.
Somebody knows you, they know. I mean, Alex, he gets me, I get him. We work off of each other. The arrangements take their own life, but working with somebody like Chris Denny, I mean, he's a genius. Michael Orland, very different but amazing. John Boswell, and John Boswell is an amazing performer himself. So. Joseph Falcon, one of my first people that ever played for me, and that it really was how I got Guys and Dolls, was Scott Frankel, who wrote
Really?
Yes,
who
wrote Grey Gardens and War Paint, and I think he wrote A Doll's House or something early on, and another one about the the World's Fair. I can't remember the name of that, and I actually did a reading of that. But he was the pianist for Jerome Robbins' Broadway, and he had been a concert pianist. And anyways, I got to know him, and I said, would you mind playing some auditions for me? And so then I had this idea, because they didn't want me to do the Lament for Guys and Dolls, and he's the one that did an arrangement of Something Wonderful, which was from King and I did it as Miss Adelaide. But the way he arranged it, and this is why I'm talking about this, the way he arranged it, they really couldn't figure out what it was.
Yes.
Because he put several chords in there that were just made it our own version of it.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if he knows this, but I credit him with the fact that I got that role. Because, it was my idea, but the way he arranged it,
Okay.
And
put you in
people change it. It's like Alex taking, a Jerry Herman song, but the way he arranges it, it becomes fresh and it becomes your version of it, So it's that relationship is very.
Each music director has their own musical language.
That's right.
To express from. Yeah.
That's right.
Okay, I'm gonna put you and you're already in the hot seat, but I'm gonna put you in the even hotter seat.
Oh no.
You sing 8 bars, your favorite 8 bars from one of your shows.
God. Favorite 8 bars. I can feel the frost now. That makes my spring and summer dreams seem lost now. Why can't the autumn haze recall the days of warm summer laughter that faded soon after in autumn? He left in autumn, and though another season's here, I feel the emptiness of autumn all the year. That's probably it.
Oh, it's so good. Oh, it's so good.
I picked too low of a key, but what do you want?
Oh, please.
Alex isn't here.
None of them are here. Oh,
sorry,
man.
Alex.
Oh, it's so good. Okay, so I'm going to end this with my very favorite question on planet Earth. So I'm going to ask you, Faith Prince, if you could invite 5 people to dinner, who would you invite?
Gosh. Could they be dead?
Absolutely.
Okay. Billy Wilder.
Okay.
Eckhart Tolle. Actually, Gayle King. I was going to say Oprah, but I like Gayle King a lot. Judy Holliday and Obama.
I love it. I love it. Those are great answers.
Really?
Yeah.
I always think, I feel like some of those people you feel like and I don't know. Yeah.
I love it.
You ask great questions.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well,
thanks for having me, and
God.
I'm blessed to know you and to have had you as a student and directed you, and you're right. You're stuck with me for life.
Good.